Hello, my loves. Happy Pride Month to all of you. My name is Bet. I'm an artist who's working on a sci fi comic with a lot of queer representation right now. And today I have Born This Way by Lady Gaga playing on repeat in my head, and a strong urge to talk about transmasc representation in media. Some of you might be asking themselves now, what representation? And doing some research for this video, I actually found quite a few Transmasc characters who appeared in different shows and movies, but I feel like it's really not that much. I did find two examples from shows I have actually watched. The first one is Trevor from Shameless, who's actually one of my favorite characters in the show. So I'd say he's a pretty positive example, but I still have some notes. If you haven't seen Shameless, I can honestly only recommend it. There's so much cool queer representation in there. Trevor appears later in the show. He is a love interest of one of the main characters, Ian. What I really like about him is that he's portrayed as someone who's like really active in the community. He's a social worker, kind of, so he's helping troubled gay teens who struggle with homelessness or addiction. And generally, he's really involved with the gay community, and I actually really liked how they portrayed that difference with Ian and Trevor. Some gay people are really openly gay or queer, and it's like a part of their personality. And then there are people where you'd never guess that they are gay. They don't really go out of their way to make specifically gay or queer friends. They are literally just a person that is gay. I think that's kind of important to keep in mind as far as stereotypes go, because sadly, a lot of the time, queer characters are actually reduced to being a walking stereotype. They have the voice, the outfit, exclusively gay friends. When Ian and Trevor first meet, there's this conflict between them because Ian doesn't really understand what's going on. I don't think he's ever really understood trans people before he met him, actually. So he's like being a bit of a dick in the beginning and really confused about the whole thing. But they figure it out, and Ian opens up a bit more and gets like introduced to a bunch of other queer people by Trevor, which is actually one of the only scenes where I found it kind of weird. Like, I don't know if that's a cultural difference. Maybe you do it that way in the US when you're in a support group or something like that. But in Germany, when queer people meet somewhere, they will introduce themselves with their pronouns and their name, and not, this is my sexuality, this is my gender, let me explain what that means. Maybe they only did it because Ian was there. That would make more sense with the context. But still, I thought it came across kind of awkward. Even when I'm trying to introduce someone to the concept that there are other genders and sexualities for whatever reason, I don't think I would do it that way. But that's more an opinion about how they represented queer culture in general. What I really enjoyed about the trans masculine representation with Trevor is that he can stand up for himself when it's about these topics. He's not like, yeah, I guess you don't understand that. He's like, no, actually, fuck you. And then as soon as someone is showing genuine interest and willingness to learn, he will explain it, which felt kind of natural to me. When you first come out, you're a lot more sensitive about these things, I suppose. But then as the years go on, you kind of let go of that expectation that cis people will know what things are hurtful to say, even if they've never been really informed about these topics. And I mean, that's just me. You definitely don't have to be that way. In fact, if you just stay at that stage where you are really easily triggered by transphobia and like casual transphobia and microaggressions, I don't blame you at all. It is gonna be a bit harder for you to navigate a world where most people are cis, or maybe you live in a super understanding community, which would be great for you. But then as soon as you get on the internet, you have like the same problem again. So absolutely understandable if you are a trans person who doesn't take any shit. But for me, I feel like it really went that way. I also like the way they depicted dysphoria. For example, the scene where they're looking for a bar to go to with Ian's mom, and Trevor doesn't want to go anywhere where they will check his ID because his ID still has the dead name on it. The way he gets super uncomfortable there and ultimately leaves just felt so relatable to me. Like when you're at a doctor's office and the people there misgender you because you haven't told them. It's exactly this weird discomfort, which is why I totally get wanting to avoid these situations. And even with friends, Ian is not being much of an ally. So I really enjoyed that they gave him self-respect and a backbone, I guess. I'm not going to say too much about the extent of I'm uncomfortable with my body that they wrote into his character. That is definitely true for some people, and it's just an individual choice. So I don't have like any statistics about how common different levels of top and bottom dysphoria are. Maybe it's like that for most people. So to sum this up, I really like Trevor. I think he's great representation. Maybe they could have gone more in depth about his relationship with his family, but all in all, I think they did a great job. Also, bare minimum, but still worth mentioning, he was played by an actual trans man. The second example I chose for Transmasc representation is actually a character I did not know was Transmasc before researching for this video. I'm talking about Taiga from My Hero Academia. He's one of the pussycats, the buff guy with the skirt on. And that's kind of the second way you can go with any queer representation. You just add it, but like casually, in a way where most fans are gonna be unaware of it. Even though I gotta say the pussycats all look kind of fruity, so yeah, I wouldn't have expected any of these people to be straight. But in general, you can write characters in a way where people wouldn't really guess. That's definitely a way to play it safe when you're a cis person and you're unsure. Like maybe you just mention it once or twice and otherwise that's just a completely regular person. And it also means a lot less research for you as a cis person who wants to include trans representation. I don't really have negative examples to talk about because as soon as I notice that a show or a movie is being like weird about trans people, I just don't watch it. I know there's some horrendous quote unquote representation from the trans femme side of things, which is really just disgusting shit in general. Male to female trans people, the way I see it, the group of queer people who has to take the most shit in today's society from a lot of conservative far-right people who paint them as predators, pretending that you can just harass women without years of hormone therapy, surgery, and in a lot of cases social isolation. But yeah, buddy, I'm sure they're just doing that to get into the women's restroom. But that concludes this video. If you have a favorite Transmasc character, drop them in the comments. I'd love to check out media with cool Transmasc representation. And also, in general, trans representation. Just put it all in there. And if you are a trans woman, I have a bit of a request. Maybe slide into my Instagram DMs. Not in a weird way, I promise. No, as I already mentioned, I am writing a comic. The main character is a trans woman, and I would love to talk to some more of you, like people who actually made that experience, since I am trans myself, but like the other way around. And I want to be as accurate as possible. So if you're up for answering a few questions, you can find my link tree in the description. Now, if you found my rambling in any way entertaining or relatable, consider giving this video a like or maybe following me. On this channel, I talk about art, fandom, and a queer topic. In the future, I might also talk more about like internet phenomenons, since I am chronically online, if you couldn't tell. Stay gay, have a lovely day. Bye!